All right. Hey, everybody. It's me, Alex Buriak, the Senior Vice President here at Jet Lending. And today we're going to go over a live review of real estate investing math. Now, what is that? At least in a personal preference of mine, real estate investing is basically math. So if you have the financing in order and you got your purchase price and you have your repairs and your after repaired value and all those numbers on your property that you're evaluating, you can really come up to see what it would look like if you did this deal. And there's always a lot of questions about how people do loans for short-term and for long-term real estate investing using asset-based lending. Some people call it hard money lending. So what I'm going to do is actually go through the math of everything, of how you calculate your loans, how do you calculate your profit margins, how do you look at real estate investing as someone who's looking at basically your profit margins. So how do you calculate all this stuff? And it seems like it's overwhelming. But with the right team and the right knowledge, you can do this. I mean, I basically would set up Excel sheets in the beginning. We still use them. And just knowing a couple variables, that's what happens like when, let's say somebody sends a loan over to Jet Lending. Well, we'll comp everything. So we'll tell you what we think that what you're going to be projecting before you order appraisal. And the reason why we do this is because we believe that if you're making money, you'll go out and buy more properties. So we want to make sure that your business plans are in line for how you want to achieve independent wealth. So let me share my screen. You'll see me moving stuff around. I'm actually going to go over what we do and how to calculate all this stuff so you guys know how to do this, okay? So let me share my screen here. There we go. You guys, so basically this is an Excel file that we create to look at how your deal is going, okay? So let's look at a real deal. This is a real deal that we closed, okay? So you can see the margins on how you'd have to buy things and how do you have to structure things and how you have to think of things and all encompassing numbers, not just your loan, but other things too. Like you have third-party expenses like title fees. You may have a contractor. You should have a contractor, but you have all these fees. How do I calculate my profit margins? So I'm in line with my business plan, so I know I'm making X. So let's say, well, this person did. They bought this property for $121,000. The after repaired value on our comps and the appraisal, we're pretty close to the appraiser most of the time. But the appraiser is a third-party service. We have nothing to do with them. But that's why we comp it so hard in the beginning, like we're buying it. So our borrowers don't waste money, And anybody that tells you that you shouldn't get an appraisal before you close, here's some of your risks. Yes, an appraisal is just a licensed personnel's point of view. You can line up 40 appraisers and get 40 different numbers. But so is your buyer. If you're a flipper and you don't see a snapshot to the future from the appraiser, I think you're at a disadvantage because your buyer is going to see that number. So it's worth the $500 expense so you can calculate your profit margins to see if this is a deal that you want to do, if your buyer is going to be seeing these numbers too. If you are a landlord and you are doing something without an appraiser, your bank only looks at the appraiser appraisal when you refinance, whether you're using non-QM or if you're using a regional bank. So knowing what your bank may see to see if you have any other costs coming out of pocket at the back end is something you should need to really consider to see if saving $500 is worth $10,000, $20,000 hit when you refinance or cash out at the end. So let's say this person put in $30,000 in rehab. And I forgot to pull the taxes, but that's usually at 3.5%. So 210,000 times 3.5. I put 3.2. 21 times 3.5%. Let's say that's $7,350. And we're going to hold that in escrow. That's your repairs. Okay, that's how this works. So I lend as an asset-based lender. You're going to see this a lot. I lend 70% of the after repaired value, or I lend 75% of the after repaired value. What that means is that your total loan could not exceed that amount. Now, the difference with Jet Lending is that we are what's called a loan to value lender. So that means we don't have a loan to cost rider in the state of Texas. Outside of Texas, we do, because that's how most states work. Texas is a special state, and we can just do loan to value lending, okay, with our bank lines. So that means you could become $0 out of pocket. I'm going to show you how to do that. So 70% loan to value, it's $147,000 total loan. But you're saying, well, Alex, you're saying I'm going to close at 117. That means I close at 117 because out of the $147,000 I lend you, I'm going to take 30 grand of it, of your repairs, and I'm going to hold it in a small escrow account just for you. So if Jet Lending burned down to the ground, you have $30,000 waiting for you in an escrow account for your repairs. So that's why, as a lender, if you're charging interest on your repair escrow, it means you've actually taken it out of your bank account and you're holding that money for that person for their needs, okay? Make sure if you're not getting charged interest on your draw money, make sure that if you're using a institutional lender or a private lender, make sure your escrow money is held in an escrow account. Nothing's more frustrating than you ask for a draw and your lender doesn't have the money to give you. They're like, oh, I'm waiting for Jimmy's deal to close, and then I'll have it maybe 3 weeks. Then you lose your contractors and stuff. So just remember, this is all math, but it's also risk. Don't risk a couple $100 to put you, at a huge disadvantage later. Think about your risks. So purchase price 121, ARV 210, repairs at 30,000. You got $77,350 in property taxes. Total loan 147 at 70% of the 210. I'm closing at 117, holding 30 in escrow. So if we are at, let's see, 3% origination at 8.9% interest only payments. Now there is no pre-penalty. There's no penalty for early payoff. Okay, so just remember that. Always, that's another video we have on YouTube. What to ask your lenders. Don't get caught by teasers. Get with someone who actually wants you to succeed. Don't hide anything. Okay, so you can see a great right there. 3% of 147 is $4,410. You got to pay our lawyers for the document fee. We also estimate for title. Okay, it's about a 1.5% fee. Usually the title company charges you. That equation falls out of balance when the loan gets larger. But we like to tell our clients something. Hey, by the way, yeah, you got origination fees from your lender. Yeah, they got to pay their attorneys to pull the docs, but you also have title fees, okay? So we want to make sure that's part of your closing costs. So you can see all your fees here equates up to $7,970. You're saying, but Alex, you just said estimated funds closing a borrower. I need to bring 11 grand, possibly 12 grand to closing. Well, because you got to pay your out-of-pocket costs and the difference from what you bought it from what I'm lending at closing. So this can move different ways. You can decrease the repairs held. I don't recommend you doing that because if it truly takes 30 grand to fix the property, take 30 grand. If you don't use all your money, we're still going to give you the money back from what you didn't use on your final draw, okay? But you never want to end up with too little money. The better way to do this is to change your purchase price. There's only one variable you can change in investment real estate, and that's purchase price. You can't change what it's going to be worth after you fix it. You can't change what it's going to be cost to repair it, but you can change how you bought it, okay? And that's how we're going to show the profit margins on risk. So what I'm going to show you here is, remember that number, $12,000, $11,970? If I change my purchase price to 110, I'm only coming out of pocket $970. If I change this to 105, it's green now. That's negative. That means I'm going to zero you out at closing. You will walk into title, you will sign, you will leave without any money out of pocket. So when you hear people say, I do 100% financing, or you can buy real estate with no money out of pocket, this is how. It's off the purchase price. It's off the spread. So remember the math of that, of how you do this. It's off the purchase price and the spread of the loan. This is also comes into play if you're using a lender that has a loan-to-cost rider. They say that they're a 75% loan-to-value lender, but they have a 90% loan-to-cost at closing, or an 80% loan-to-cost at closing of what the as is, or the purchase price, or whatever's less. Okay, so if you bought it at 105 because of this market, but it's worth 100, they're going to make you pay. Let's say it's 90% loan-to-cost, 10% of that 100, but you also have to make up the spread of what you bought it for. So you're actually coming out of pocket more. Okay, so just really understand the math of things before you start looking into what's more profitable for you. Okay, so I'm going to turn this back to 121 because that's what the actual client did. Okay, so you have your monthly interest payments and your tax escrow. The reason why you want your lender to take out taxes, okay, is because just like you have your repair escrow, you have your tax escrow. Just like if you own your home and you had like a budget mortgage with your lender, at the end of the year, your taxes are paid. Or you sold this property in October and it's January now. So you collected 10 months of taxes that you have to give to your buyer. If you don't escrow these, you have to come out of pocket these monies at some point of time. Again, thinking of risk. Do I want to risk not having this capital at the end just because something goes wrong and now I had to pay for X? Or do I just want to put this in an escrow account and make sure it's there so I don't have to come up with it later? So think about these things while you're looking at your loans and while you're looking at your investments, whether you use jet lending or not. If you have a private guy, and go for it, but make sure you're structured for success. All right, so you got your monthly payments. We always make sure that you have at least a third of the renovation budget, 6 months of interest payments, and anything out of pocket at closing somewhere in your accounts. We don't take it, we just need to make sure it's there. And the reason why we do that is because it allows us to know that you have the liquidity to span the deal. We want to make sure that you're a low foreclosure risk. We're not an acquisition lender. We don't want it. So we want to, jet lending makes more money if you actually go and sell your property and buy another property. So we want to make sure, hey, does this person have the bandwidth to actually complete their deal? Okay. So that's why this could be lines of credit. This could be cash in your bank. You could be partnering with somebody, whatever you want. So now that we have the loan idea of how the loan works, now we can get into profit margins. Okay. So this is the deal analyzer that I look at. So this means that when you sell this property, this is how you can calculate your profit margins. See, does this meet the quality that I need for my business to stay in business? Like, I'm a flipper and I want to hold some rentals, but I need X amount of dollars to buy X amount of properties. Am I doing that? So right now, day one on the sale, you got to pay back your loan. So $147,000 from your sale has to go to pay back the loan you just took out. Let's say that you were in this loan for 6 months. Let's say this was a larger property. No, this one wasn't. This was a smaller property. This was like about 1,600 square feet. So about $100 a month in utilities. Remember, you got contractors over there using power tools. You got to make sure that the water's on, the gas, if there's gas in the place, you got to have your utilities on. You got to pay for them. So people are going to be using them during the renovation. So let's say it was like $100 a month for utilities. Agent selling commission. I have an opinion on this. Okay, I'm going to put 6% in because that's what most people are going to get. Buyer's agent and a seller's agent. I always get this. But Alex, I'm an agent, so I'm going to save money on the commission. Well, if you are taking 3% commission when you're an agent, I consider that a separate business. If you are Jimmy LLC and you're Jimmy the real estate agent, then Jimmy the real estate agent got 3%. Jimmy LLC lost 3%. Though it still is you, I think of you two different people. That's just how I think. But you run your business and your accounting the way you want. Let's use 6%. Remember, you paid $1,702.75 a month, okay, in this deal. So you got to pay yourself back every month of payments you put in the deal. So if you've been in this deal for 6 months, well, you got to pay yourself back. You just paid this money out, so now you got to pay yourself back. You paid out $11,970 at closing. You got to pay yourself back that money for your net profit. This property didn't have an HOA, but if you did, we would calculate, an HOA. You got to think about that. HOAs really come into play when you're dealing with townhomes and condos. Usually a home HOA is not too bad, but a condo HOA could be like $200 depending on the amenities. So if you're buying townhomes and condos, make sure you look at the HOAs that say, how much do I have to pay a month while I'm rehabbing the deal? How much do I have to pay a month while I'm waiting to sell it? How much do I have to pay a month while I'm waiting to refinance it? So think about that kind of stuff because it comes out of your cost. Seller's contribution. Before this crazy seller's market happened, a seller's contribution was pretty reasonable. Usually was at 3%. I'm not seeing a ton of them, but you can calculate, hey, listen, if I did a 3% seller's contribution, what would it be? Let's say we sold this at $210,000, ARV price. From paying the 147 loan back to Jet Lending, paying every penny of 6 months of taxes and interest payments back to yourselves. So $1,702.75 times 6 back to yourself in your pocket. You paid yourself every month of utilities back to yourself. You paid the second closing costs. Usually the seller pays the closing costs on the sale. Okay, so let's say it was about $3,150. You paid yourself back the $11,970. You had no HOA fees. You didn't do a seller's contribution. You sold it at $210,000. Your profit is about $24,463.50. Now, the question you asked, some of you are like, yeah, some of you aren't. Is $24,000 enough money for your business plan to stay in business to keep buying? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So you can look at these numbers and see, do I want to do this? Does this make sense for my business plan? Does the math make sense for what I'm trying to do? Some people are like, well, Alex, I don't get out of bed for less, I'm making 30 grand. Okay, that means you got to change your purchase price, or you got to structure something else on how you're going to take care of some of these costs. So that's why here at Jet Lending, we do all this analysis for our borrowers, because we want to make sure you stay in business. It is much more cost effective as a business for us to make sure our current clientele is successful than to go find a new person. No, don't get me wrong, we find new people all the time. But yeah, you can probably see I'm pretty direct, and I'm telling you, this is why we do this. This is what we do for our borrowers to make sure that they are staying in business. So you're like, well, 24 grand is cool. You know what, Alex? I'm not going to use an agent. I'm going to sell it by myself. And I'm going to say, okay, that means you're making $37,000, but it took you 12 months to sell it. Now you're at $26,000. And then at 12 months, you brokered it for 3%, or now you had to buy people for 6%. Again, now you're making 13 grand. Okay. Try not to just nickel and dime everything. The one thing you can't buy is time. Okay. So how does me incorporating a team of people to do my business process make me more money? So always consider that if you do things yourself, like oh, I'm going to rehab it myself, and you also work 9 to 5 or maybe 9 to or 6 to 6 really, and you're just doing this on the weekends, and you can't get the rehab done, and then you push your flooring guy back, and it's like, think about those types of things. Are you really saving money? Are you really saving when you're biting into your profits in time? So that's why people come to us, and that's why people use Jet Lending for their analysis to see what is pertinent and what is going to help you do your business. I'm going to be here. So I have one question so far. And by the way, for those of you guys who aren't used to like Jet Lending lives and our super investor meetings and stuff like that, feel free to ask questions in under the chats. If you guys are on any of our social media channels, please like the video, share it to people that you think is going to get benefit from it. Subscribe to our YouTube channels and our Facebook pages and things like that. It'll help push information. We want to make sure it's not just Jet Lending getting more loans. We love more loans. But are people getting helped? Are people being taken care of? Are people making money so they can be independently wealthy and do what they want to do? We have a question. In a case like this, how much would you require in reserves? Okay, so it probably came before we did it, but just in case, let's relook at it. I'm going to make sure that you have access to $32,000, give or take. Like if you had 25, I probably could make the deal work. This is more of a guideline, and that's the thing about investment lending. It's not so cut and dry, especially when you use a lender like us. When we're deploying about $80 million of our own capital, we can make what makes sense work. You may be shy, but you may make $6-7 grand a month at your job. It's like, oh, that makes sense. They got money coming in. So we always try to see, do you have reasonable access to at least 1/3 of the renovation budget? So as we're reimbursing you for completed work, you can keep the project moving. Do you have at least 6 months access to at least 6 months of interest payments? So we know you're going to pay on time every month. Do you have access to your out-of-pocket expense if you have it? If this person didn't have, let's say they only had 12 grand in their bank account, well, that 12 grand's gone day one. We do have like no draw loans where you don't have to show the income for the draw for the repairs. We have a special deal with Fast Track Remodeling. Just because they're just so well known in the industry. If you do a no draw loan with us, you just have to use them just because we know they're going to do the work well. And if they don't do the work well, they fix it. They are not a subsidiary of Jet Lending or anything like that. We don't have like a finance deal with them or anything. They're just so well known. So we always tell people, if you go that route, interview them and interview anybody, even your lender, your contractor, your title company, your real estate agent. Interview these people like they're interviewing to work at your company, because they are. You're the employer and we're the employees. So always interview people to see, does this person belong on my team? Even though you get a referral from a respected company, you should always check up on people, make sure they're right for your personality, make sure you're right for your business plan, okay? But that is the only question I had here. You're looking at, right here, it gives you a good, oh, you guys can't see it. I forgot to share my screen. So right here, that 32,000 right here, okay. It shows you like a third renovation, 6 months of interest payments, any out-of-pocket costs of closing. Tell you what you got. Remember, this is gonna stay on social media. This is gonna stay on YouTube. You can always rewatch it. If something we talked about today sparks interest for you, and you're like, well, you didn't quite go over what I wanted to talk about my business. You didn't quite go over some of the questions I had. We're gonna do this pretty regularly. But if you have something special, and you need to talk to somebody that's going to give you the advice you need the team that you need, stuff like that, give us a call. You can text us at our office number. You can go on our website and pick the loan officer you want to work with. You can do anything you want, and we will actually help you build a team. There is plenty of people that come to us in the beginning, or even as seasoned investors that just aren't quite sure, or they aren't quite sure how to grow, or they aren't quite sure how to. They're like, well, I've been doing so well. Okay, let's move it to the next level. Remember, in business and in anything, the day that you're comfortable in business is the day that you stop growing. Growth is uncomfortable. You're always uncomfortable. So get with a team that's going to try to make sure that that uncomfortability is less. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any types of classes that you want to see, any types of questions that you need answered, even if it's not from Jet Lending, you're like, hey, I got this septic guy, I don't know what to do. I was like, let us know, and we'll go over this. We're going to be doing a lot more lives. Our YouTube channel is packed with information and free education content and stuff like that. So make sure you take a look at that. I'm always happy to redo stuff for you, but take a look and let us know how we can be of better service. We are a service company. We are here to help you guys become more successful, and we'd love to be a part of your team. So to close off, visit jetlending.com, look at all of our new rates and our new programs, from short-term to long-term to commercial to portfolios, one-stop shop in Texas and all across the country. Okay, we got a good team for you. We got to make sure that you guys are at least getting what you need and seeing how we can help grow your business. So I hope this was enjoyable for you. And I hope if you guys want to see something, I hope you let us know so we can give you the content you need. Have a great day.